Hey guys, thanks for stopping in for another episode of I Want That Reviews. My name's Chris, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Tac-Con 241 trigger. Essentially what the 241 trigger does, it's got two settings. You've got safe, fire, which is their 3MR setting, and then you have a third position that would normally be auto, which is a two-stage longer trigger pull. But the main thing that we look at here is on the 241 setting, the very first setting, you have a fire position that is very light and it breaks. And if you watch here real close, as that round cycles, it pushes that trigger back forward and has an assisted reset. So it happens incredibly fast. And so I'll show you here. Now they say in their documentation that it can take you a little while to get it right, but we're going to see what we can do here. That's pretty fast. Now you can see it is a fully self-contained drop-in trigger unit. You just drop it into your lower receiver, put the pins in place, and get on your way. It does have a retail price of $349.99. You may be able to find that for a better price elsewhere, but that's pretty much the best price that I've seen for it. Now this is advertised as having two firing modes. The first option gives you a single stage 3MR setting where it has that assisted reset. It is advertised there as having a 4.5 pound brake with no take up, no over travel, and being very clean. Then it has the full auto setting, which is then a two-stage precision mode that advertises as having a pull rate of 3.5 pounds for that first stage, and then the second stage with an additional 1 pound brake, so a total of 4.5 pounds brake. Now, the construction for this, the way it's made, it's full EDM wire cut, CNC'd all the way around, very well made, and then the actual interaction surfaces, the main surfaces of the parts inside are NP3 or nickel Teflon coated. For my initial impressions, when I pulled it out of the package, I was pretty impressed with it. It had a nice weight, it looked very well made. It did strike me as being very complicated. There's a lot of individual moving parts in there, so it is relatively complicated. And I did notice that it's got locking pins. So the pins that run through the body of the cassette itself have a captive ring inside there that the pins lock into, so you don't have to worry about anti-rotation or anti-walk pins or anything like that. So for installation and use, it was a bit difficult to install. You have to install it a very specific way. You need to make sure that as you put in the selector barrel, you have to make sure that that goes in a very specific way, and if you don't, it won't go in right, and you have to be very careful. They do recommend that you have it installed by a competent gunsmith. When I was first testing the pull on it, just dry firing it and using it, it seemed very heavy. The brake was kind of mushy. It wasn't behaving in the way that I had expected it to per their advertising. So I contacted Tac-Con. I did get a relatively mediocre response from them. When I explained what the pull weights were, that they were a pound or two over what they had advertised, the first thing that their representative told me was that my equipment must be wrong. They didn't seem like they were real interested in getting it squared away. After we talked about it a little bit, they asked me to send it back, so I paid the shipping and I sent it back to them. And then I waited. I sent that back for review on October 15th. Once it was delivered, I gave them a couple days. I spoke with them on the 25th, and I was told that there was nothing wrong with it, and again, that my tools must be wrong, that it pulled at the right weight, that everything was fine for them. So I figured, okay, fine, you know, maybe. And I waited. I didn't hear anything back from them after that. I didn't get any kind of a contact or reply until November 16th when I finally got a shipment notification. I had called a few times in there, didn't get any kind of a callback, didn't get an answer, and then finally got it back November 18th. So more than a month later, I finally got it back, and it was filthy. It was coated with a thick layer of carbon. I mean, it looked like they had taken it out and put maybe 1,000 rounds or more through it. The thing was just filthy. I cleaned it up, I installed it, and I went out and tried it again. You can see from the video here that I've got, it's fast. It fires really fast. You can see here, I used it, a good friend of mine used it, and man, the fire rate is fast on it. It's very nice in that respect. it doesn't break as nice as I would like it to. The break in the single stage is not a crisp break like I would expect. I describe trigger breaks as being very nice and being like a glass rod break or like breaking a candy cane. This doesn't feel like that. There's some give, there's some creep that happens first and then it breaks, and it just doesn't quite give me what I like out of the break on a trigger. Now I guess that is kind of a trade-off for the speed. But then when I put it into the full flyer mode, it still seemed really heavy. So I sat down with my gauge, I borrowed a gauge from a friend of mine, and consistently on the single stage, I got a 4-pound pull. Now, that's a half a pound lighter than what they advertised. Now that could be because it's been broken in and been used. However, when I flip it to the third setting, the 2-stage setting, I found that the first stage was 4.5 pounds and the break doesn't happen until 6 pounds. Now I've done that with my gauge and I've done that with another gauge, and I found the same readings both times. So this is definitely not quite where they say it is, and that's something that I didn't care much for. As far as likes go, I love how fast it is. Incredibly fast, incredibly easy to get those follow-up shots with. The assisted reset makes that absolutely fantastic. I really like the curved interface of the trigger shoe, the edges and the way that it's machined. That's fantastic. I do like the overall machining of it, the overall quality of the parts. And I like the fact that it has locking pins. It doesn't require the use of tightened down screws for in the body or K&S anti-walk pins or anything like that. For dislikes, I don't like the price on it. This product, for what it is incredibly expensive. It was originally $399. It's now available, like I said, for that $349.99. I think for something like this, I'd like to see it closer to the $250 price tag. It's difficult to install. It's definitely not for everyone. They do recommend having a competent gunsmith do it, and in some cases that may be necessary. The trigger overall is complicated. If you have something go wrong with this, or if you have something happen inside of it, unless you're fairly familiar with the inner workings of these things, you're not going to be able to just take it apart and look at it and figure out what it is. I don't like the fact that it's not compatible with aftermarket switches. It doesn't have aftermarket switches available. You are stuck with the one that comes with it, and you get either a low profile one, a standard profile one, a short one, and that's about it. I don't like the break. The break is too mushy. It's not as clean and crisp as I would expect from a trigger with this kind of price tag, with this kind of advertisement. The pull weight, I don't like the fact that it's not accurate. It's not where they advertise it. And then on top of all of that, I really didn't like the customer service and responsiveness that I got from them. So all of those things overall are going to lead to a 3 out of 5 stars on this one. I think that for speed and functionality, it definitely earns those 3 stars, but it's going to lose 2 because of the additional dislikes. There's some issues with it that I think Tac-Con needs to get worked out. And of course, these are just my opinions. You may feel differently about this, you may love this product, and that's entirely up to you. So I'll go ahead and include a link to their website as well as our Facebook page in the description below. Go ahead and take a look and see what you think about it. As always, thanks so much for watching. If it weren't for you guys, I wouldn't be here. So please do like, subscribe, and share, and just keep checking back on a weekly basis for more reviews of awesome products, much like this one, that'll make you say, I want that.